The principalities of Bow and Handforth had once warred without mercy for generations. They bled across open fields, brother against brother, until a far greater enemy rose from the north, one that forced unity, one that left no other choice. This is not a tale of that great war, this is the legend of two archers, Alys of Bow and Elfreda of Handforth. Warriors born of rivalry, bound by something far stranger. It was written many years ago on ancient parchment about a war between two principalities, the regions of Bow and Handforth. They fought, they feuded, one sought to conquer the other and to take whatever was theirs as their own. Blood was spilled in great battles, too much blood, so many young and great ones lost that the sons and daughters of both those great regions wept and mourned, yet still strived without mercy to conquer the other. It was a foolishness that was only broken by the rising of a much greater threat, a threat so immeasurably terrifying and unstoppable that both houses had little choice but to put aside their differences and unite or otherwise face total annihilation. No, this is not a story about the great wars against the Black Fangs. This is a story about a legend that no one saw coming. This is a story about two archers who would grow to become warriors of skill and legend, Alys and Elfreda. Bow versus Handforth was always highly competitive, with each side bidding desperately to get one better over the other. Since they were young girls, Alys of Bow and Elfreda of Handforth had competed fervently against each other in archery tournaments. Evenly matched and evenly tempered, they both hated one another. There was bad blood between the pair that was made worse over years of competition. Honours were practically even, with both young ladies taking their fair share of tournament titles. In fact, they pushed each other along so much that they were now the two best archers in the northwest of the greater kingdom of Cloud Keep, and perhaps even the best archers in the whole of the kingdom. They were so skilled and so determined to outdo one another that they never missed. Their competitions were always decided by the narrowest of margins. Whichever of the two that was declared a winner of a particular bout would most likely win out of chance, so was the level of skill between the two. What they both hadn't realised or paid much attention to, so heated were their contests, they missed the fact that they had beaten every one of the promising young male archers. This was a feat so extraordinary for the time, but it went completely unnoticed by either of them, so focused as they were with their own one-upmanship. Just at the time that their competitive rivalry was hitting its height, they both set out from their respective regions and headed to the nightly tournament of Splendid Nobility, as it was known in those days, held at a sizable rural village named Otenheim. It was a long journey to the east, on a long single road from the regions of Bow and Handforth. "Is that Elfreda's cart up there?" asked Alys, staring up the road to the crest of the hill. Her eyes narrowed and her lips tightened. "I think so. Yes, it is, Lady Alys. What would you like me to do? Stay back?" said her driver. "No, overtake them," scowled Alys as she peered out of the cart window as it bobbed up and down along the rough trail. "Yeah, come on, girls!" The driver lashed down the reins and set the two horses into a steady canter. The wagon belted forward much quicker now. Alys cracked a sly smile as they began to swallow up the ground between them and Elfreda's cart. She couldn't wait for the reaction. Elfreda's cart was a canvas covering with driver sat at the front. She bolted upright on hearing the sound of hooves quickening down the road behind them. "What's that, Edwin? Are we being overtaken?" "Yes, I think so. Don't worry, I'll let them pass," said Edwin the driver, sighing deeply from his already long day's travel. "Very well, there's no rush, is there?" Elfreda replied. She slumped back into her seat, placing both hands behind her head, as the cart began to move past and overtake them. "Come on, Aid, drive them quicker. Let's beat these losers," Alys cried at the Handforth cart as they moved ahead. "It's Alys! Quick, get after them, Edwin. Elfreda sprang to her feet, waving a fist in the air. "Quick, catch them!" "Okay, my lady, I'm going as fast as I can." The cart rocked and bounced along the uneven road. It began to gain on Alice's cart as her driver, Aid, whipped at the horses who were already tired from a long morning pulling the heavy cart along. It wasn't long before Elfreda's cart was back alongside them. "Come on, Edwin, drive them faster." "This is as fast as they'll go, my lady." He whipped the reins down once more. Both carts were moving at a ridiculous speed on this remote section of road, deep into the countryside. They barreled along almost touching each other. Then suddenly, up ahead, the road narrowed between two trees. There wasn't enough space to fit both carts through at the same time. "Come on, Aid, faster! Come on, Edwin, you can do it!" They barreled even faster now towards the narrow gap. Who would give first? It was a steely test of nerves in which no one was willing to yield. "Faster! Faster!" the cries went up, both Alys and Elfreda staring at each other, side by side, as they had done so previously at so many of their archery tournaments. "You can do it, Aid! Faster, Edwin, let's win this!" they both shouted, not giving any ground to the other. It was a dead heat. Both carts hit the gap at exactly the same time. They tried to pull back at the last second, but the moment was too great. The carts smashed into the trees and then into each other. Both drivers were thrown clear. Aid landed on the horse in front of him, and he was ejected by the impact. He rolled off the side into the grass at the road's edge. Edwin was thrown clear into the bushes at the roadside. Both drivers, surprisingly, were unhurt, apart from small scrapes and bruises. Alys clenched her teeth together, dragging herself from the wreckage. She set her sights on Elfreda as she clambered from under the now torn canvas that had fallen from the roof of her cart as it had impacted the tree. They locked eyes on one another and then charged. They clawed and scratched and kicked. They grabbed clumps of hair, threw punches, and kicked out some more. "It's typical of you lot, this, trying to overtake us. What are you playing at?" growled Edwin, as he brushed dust and soil from his brown sackcloth jacket. "Typical of us lot? That's good coming from you. Handforth lot, you're all the same." "Oh, you reckon, do you? Come on then." Edwin drew his sword. Aid followed. Both brawling ladies stopped and turned as their drivers lunged at one another wildly. Alys's jaw dropped open. Elfreda followed as they let go of one another. Abe struck Edwin with an arching blow as Edwin thrust forward with a strong stabbing motion. They both paused, sank to their knees, one mirroring the other, swords both landing true. They slumped to the ground and breathed their last. "No!" cried Alys, running over to Abe, kicking through splintered wreckage. Elfreda just stood with her hands on her head. "You did this, you stupid little girl," she snarled at Alys, who was now holding Abe's head on her lap. Tears ran down her cheeks and fell onto Abe's sackcloth jacket as he lay lifeless. "Oh, Abe, I'm so sorry." She wept as Elfreda began to pace back and forth as the reality of the situation dawned on them both. They were stuck in the middle of nowhere, miles from any habitation. They had no drivers to escort them. The carts were wrecked. 3 of the horses had bolted, and the other looked injured as it hobbled at the road's edge. And what's more, they were both stuck with each other's company. "Well, what are we going to do now?" Elfreda tapped her foot nervously on the stony ground. "You do what you like. I'm going to the tournament." Alys's tears were quickly forgotten as she stood to face her greatest rival. "What do you mean, do what I want? I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere, with you. And to be honest, I can't think of anything worse." "Oh, save it, would you? Let's just get to the tournament. I'll win again, like last time, and we can all go our separate ways. Like last time, your foot was over the line on that last arrow. It shouldn't have counted. Over the line? You really know how to get on my nerves, sore loser. Me a sore loser? What about you?" "I'll tell you what, you walk along the road and I'll take the higher ground. I'll see you at the tournament." Elfreda made her feelings known her jaw clenched and fists tightening once more. "Suits me just fine. First let's give our drivers some kind of respectful burial, and then we can go our separate ways." Together they covered Aid and Edwin with broken wood from the cart in a nearby line of trees. They stood in quiet contemplation next to each other for a long and slightly awkward moment. "Right, I'm going up on the ridge. Good luck to you. Try not to get eaten or killed. That'd be a real shame," skulked Elfreda as she marched forcefully up the hill. "Same to you," Alys contorted her face and curled up her hands in anger towards Elfreda's turned back, gesturing with an animated rage. She grabbed her bow and bag from the cart's wreckage, with enough supplies to complete the journey on foot, and started down the road once more towards Otenheim. She could see Elfreda's silhouette against the skyline as she traversed the top of the ridge. So could everyone else in the near vicinity. Alys questioned whether this was wise, but then turned to mind her own business and make some headway before nightfall. It wasn't long before the rocky ground at the top of the ridge began to take its toll on Elfreda's feet and ankles. It was hard going. She needed to find another path. There wasn't any other than the road. She began to make her way down the hill towards the flat ground. She figured if she could hang back from Alys, then she wouldn't have to speak to her. Being up on the top of the ridge for quite a while had brought her presence to the attention of prying eyes. There were bandits and outlaws in this region, hiding out in the vast plains and woodlands that lay between Bolbothington in the west and Otenheim in the east. They would often attack travellers that showed any sign of vulnerability. They were opportunists who would take what they could when they could. A solitary figure out in the open was the perfect target. Alys walked ahead alone while Elfreda stayed back out of sight. It wasn't long before Alys felt as if she was being watched. She peeled around from time to time. She couldn't see anyone. Her eyesight was great. She was an archer after all. It's probably nothing, she thought. Head down, she carried on along the path, her feet catching the odd stone from time to time. She sent up clouds of dust, huffing in the boredom. Elfreda could hear something up ahead, a commotion of some kind. She rounded the corner slowly to see two men clad in black tattered cloaks. One of them had Alys by the throat. He had wrapped his arm around her neck from the back. She kicked out, face blood red, as he stifled her shouts with his hand. The other grabbed her satchel and began rifling through it. He took the food and began to search frantically for anything of any value. Elfreda moved out into the road, peering out from behind the tree line at the path's edge. She heard a crack coming from the opposite trees. With a start, she threw her eyes to her right as a flash of movement caught her periphery vision. "Come here," shouted a gruff voice as a man charged from the tree line and started across the road. Elfreda drew an arrow, through instinct more than anything, and fired it as quickly as was possible at the black-clad figure closing the distance between them. The panicked arrow stooped low and hit him just above the knee. He fell to the ground with a loud shout. Elfreda's heart raced as more movement came from the forest's edge. She placed another arrow at the bowstring. This time she fired it towards the two men who were attacking Alys. The figure searching the satchel was stooped down. Still rifling through the bag, the arrow stuck fast in the top side of his leg. He cried and fell to the ground, clutching at the arrow. His friend dropped Alys as an expertly aimed arrow thudded into his shoulder. "Quick, get out of here!" He dragged his friend by his hands into the tree line, the satchel still over his shoulder. Alys didn't even notice all the provisions going. She instead grabbed her bow that had fallen to the roadside. She fired an arrow over Elfreda's shoulder. Elfreda heard a stunted cry coming from behind her. She glanced round to see another figure hobbling back to the cover of the trees with an arrow protruding from his leg. The bandits disappeared into the woods, carrying off those who were injured. Thanks, shouted Elfreda, awkwardly, looking quickly at the ground. Yeah, same, good shooting. We should stick together, Elfreda, said Alys, her hands trembling slightly from the ordeal. Yeah, you're probably right. Come on, let's get moving. I don't really want to hang around here any longer. Elfreda put a hand into a satchel and handed Alys a sandwich. You'll be needing some food. They've taken yours. Have some of mine.